You haven't any hope of understanding any of this. You do know that?
Educate me as to why.
Because you don't know what it is to be without power. Politics doesn't interest you. Why?
Because it's fatally boring.
Because you have no interest in changing a world that suits you so well.
When does something become acceptable?
From upholding the values of a man to praising the culture of one nation, feeding on the norms of the majority, formulating new truths to meddle with democracy, and conforming to the power of machines to control and predict the rest of our lives.
Is this a truth that we are supposed to just accept?
Because what if things could be different?
What if there was something that we could do?
What if there's more to what we know?
What if there are other ways to live morally and justly in a world that easily accepts otherwise?
What if it was possible for humanity to uphold the truth together?
Human behavior has been established through men's eyes. A lot of fundamental theories of morality and development were based on the male perspective. What they do and how they do things have been the norm. These theories do not just oppress women, but gives us theories concerning how people become gendered and sexed, how femininity and masculinity develop, and how sexual inequality is reproduced. We are living in a society greatly dominated by the male perspective, promoting a culture of patriarchy, a society where men lead, where they are expected to do the tough job. Kings are higher than queens, emperors too to empress, politics greatly dominated by men, and men expected to be the man of the house. Women, on the other hand, are expected to be that of nurturer, caretaker, and helpmate, weavers of relationships, having greater ability to care. Meanwhile, men continue to devalue that care. Women's emphasis on relationships and connectivity are still seen as inferior because that was how the lens of historical models of human development taught society to perceive. The stereotypes reflect the conception of adulthood that is itself out of balance. We favor separateness over connection to others, and leaning toward an autonomous life of work than toward the interdependence of love and care. What would it be like when we focused on women? A concept of morality that values female experience would make caring primary. Gilligan emphasized that women's role is equally as important as men. Women are often seen as problematic or weak in nature, but the difference and confusion of women are also their strengths. Women's subordination is rooted in their moral concern. Sensitivity led them to include others other than themselves. They have particular advantages and strengths of having the capacity to maintain a healthy world, wherein it's not just achievements that are valued, but where relationships are also thriving. Morality based on care ethics does not just empower women, but somehow empower men too. Men spend most of their time trying to separate their identities from their caretakers or mothers, because femininity has always been perceived as a weakness. It must be suppressed. Attachment, as we see, isn't a sign of weakness. Neither is it bad. We can use attachments to lead. We can empower the society and promote leadership that is anchored in having sensitivity and empathy.
Shifting the lens to a Filipino perspective, where does a woman stand in society? Do Filipino women even have a place to begin with? Looking back at the pre-colonial period in the Philippines, egalitarian societies exist. Yes, men and women are of the same status, and in some cases, it is even women who have more freedom, privileges, and power such as assuming the role of a babaylan, who then served as healers in the community, as midwives, as priestess, and even as bridges to converse with those in the spiritual world. Pre-colonial Filipinas are companions, not slaves. In some parts of the Tagalog region, if you marry a distinguished woman at that time, it is even their surname that is usually taken by their husband. Indeed, Filipinas are given the opportunity to decide for themselves, especially in their own respective households, and even for the community, as they assume leadership positions. When did this all change? It seems like we have our colonizers to blame. Motivated by their 3 Gs, the arrival of the Spaniards enabled patriarchy to seep into the system, wiping away the indigenous culture's gender fluidity and inclusivity. Women are now caged in households, expected to only take care of their spouses and children, expected to be submissive, meek, and conservative. There was also a reinforcement of male superiority during the American colonization, such as in religion and economics. The continued imbalance and inequality urged women to lobby for their rights through campaigns and tasted victory, such as in succeeding to fight for women's suffrage. The Filipino woman's history is an important example of a story that is narrated by Filipinos for Filipinos, as highlighted in Zu Salazar's Pantayong Pananaw. It is a from us for us perspective, saying that all explanations regarding our civilization's development are tied to Western influences, which we should learn from. As a nation who values tayo and kapwa as a core value in Psikolohiyang Pilipino, our relationship with others is a huge part of our morality and ethics, like a woman who values her attachment with others. As we continue to write the Filipino woman's history, hopefully in our very own language, may we continue to empower women by fighting one of our greatest foes in our technology-driven day and age, misinformation.
The Philippines is an easy target of misinformation owing to the fact that more than half of its population has limited access to the internet due to poor infrastructure and expensive internet costs. In 2014, Facebook subsidized its app in the Philippines because cellular data is pricey, physical internet infrastructure is poor, and the smartphone revolution is limited. Easily, our country became the perfect petri dish of the tactics of mass manipulation. So what makes this information effective in the Philippines? First, the gap between the poor and the rich, and the promise of revenge that elevated their emotion. It is why the creator of misinformation focuses more on the emotion rather than the facts. Second, there is no regulation and initiative from technology and platforms. And third, our rights and constitution in real life disappears the minute we go into the virtual world. But as we can see on the trend, the attack is always directed at women because they are an easy target of character assassination. They usually first attack their credibility, and then they repeat it exponentially. And then second, they will use sexual violence until they are degraded into sexual objects. And lastly, they use their machinery to influence others to hate or send hate to these women, such as trending hashtag arrest Laila de Lima or hashtag arrest Maria Ressa. In a patriarchal country like the Philippines, a man like Duterte can get a free pass for belittling and intimidating women just because he is a man. Duterte supporters are more popularly known as TDS, even consider him as tatay of the nation. So why would they listen to women like Maria Ressa, Pia Ranyada, Patricia Evangelista, Lenny Robredo, when the system makes women feel unheard and less than a man, they are supposed to submit, be at home taking good care of the house, educating their kids, and serving their husbands. It is so easy to silence and attack women's character because the system perpetuates sexism and patriarchy. And President Duterte made it seem like the problem is just about Maria Ressa and Rappler, and the holy grail that is press freedom, but not of the country. Babae kasi. A praise used as an insult now sounds like Rappler kasi yan. So how can we save our country from disinformation and misinformation? First, we must always demand accountability. As Maria Ressa said, these technologies and platforms are not enemies, but they must be liable for being weaponized. And second, we must always hold the line, because if we don't, it's like voluntarily giving up our rights. And third, always think slow. Analyze the facts and truths that are given to us. To answer the question why we should continue fighting against disinformation and misinformation, the simple answer is because we Filipinos value human rights and we fought hard to have democracy. Keep in mind that anyone can be the next target of the government, just like Maria Ressa. If they can do that to her, they can do that to any of us. A threat to one person is a threat to a whole nation. But the silver lining of it all is that we can still do something. We just need to stand with them through their fight. As Maria Ressa said, we cannot fight monsters by becoming monsters ourselves.
Isang daang araw na ngayon sa pwesto, si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, malaki ang naging papel ng social media.
In the battle for power, democracy has a new front line. And more on screens and social media.
At umabot sa
1,870,000
na mga users dito sa Pilipinas. Ang mga nakuhang data ayon sa ulat ng The Guardian, gagamitin para partikular na ma-target ng political ads ang Facebook users.
How is social media influencing the selection?
It will determine who wins.
What's written on the board, Mayor Rudy Duterte is of course the obvious winner for president with 16.6 million votes, followed by Maro at 9.9 million votes.
2016, the first social media election in the Philippines. Studies have shown how Duterte's campaign team made full use of social media to gain popularity and mobilize voters. What does that leave us with, as a nation who claims to be democratic? How can we have democracy with a technology that manipulates people into believing a certain truth? This technology we speak of is called psychographics, the segmenting of content and customers, studying their psychological characteristics and traits such as their values, desires, goals, interests, and life choices, all sensed under the nose of a social media analyst. In the neutrality of Facebook and other social media sites, social media analysts use psychographics to study the emotions of users online and use these known emotions to draw them towards a certain candidate, just like they did for Duterte. It has become a formula of studied trends that they have learned to predict. While it has been put to question if Duterte worked with Cambridge Analytica, a political consulting firm accused of data theft to benefit those in power, Duterte's social media managers argue that this is just marketing. It is the play of human emotions and making decisions. Human emotions drive elections, and a nation's democracy is only as good as its people. So when people feed on specific information, that becomes their truth, which then becomes their democracy. Picture this in the information age. Psychographics take what users make public online, but can also steal data by taking it to another platform and use it to study behavior and possible targets to feed certain information to. Now, is it ethical? Where do we draw the line between marketing and pure manipulation? In a world where social media has suddenly become the foundation of democracy, then to protect democracy, we must also protect the internet. And so we ask, should social media be regulated when it comes to politics? Should election interference be illegal? Because democracy comes to question when the people are being fed information that leads them to a different truth. But it's just marketing. What's wrong with psychographics? Social media campaigners ask. What is wrong with targeting certain audiences? What is wrong with embracing technology and marketing things for what they are? But do we really present things as they are? Because again, it's just marketing, right?
Sir Pompey Lavinia, Duterte's social media campaign manager, argues, using Alexander Solzhenitsyn's claim on the irony of being a victim of technology in a democratic state, that good and evil is not in the technology. It is in the heart of every man, and it moves. And so this tells us that what is wrong outside social media would also be wrong inside social media. So while technology is not bad, the people who run it have a heart where both good and evil lie. So it is still and will always be up to them.
By 2050, our planet will be a world transformed. By 2050, artificial intelligence may have revolutionized every aspect of our lives. AI-driven stores will allow you to purchase goods without cashiers or waiting lines. AI will diagnose and treat patients with amazing precision using complex learning algorithms. Analyzing massive quantities of data will be executed in split seconds, rivaling human intelligence. AI voice recognition systems will sound and behave just like real people. This is not the end. Driving will be a hobby, not a necessity, as self-driving cars will become the norm. With global meat demand anticipated to increase, lab-grown meat might be the only solution. Hyperloop technology, where pods are shot through frictionless tunnels, will connect the world's largest places in mass transit. Virtual reality closets will allow people to try on outfits, while holograms will take FaceTime to new heights. Teachers will check in using VR goggles, while AI and digital instructors will monitor their development. Physical campuses may be a thing of the past in higher education. By 2050, we may be controlling things with our minds and communicating through brain signals. By 2050, humans will be hackable animals. Decades from now, there will be an algorithm that can understand you better than you understand yourself. It can therefore predict your choices, manipulate your desires, and make decisions on your behalf. Eventually, algorithms would also tell you what to study at university, where to work, whom to marry, whether you are on the gay-straight spectrum, and even whom to vote for. This is the world of 2050. Emerging technologies enhance our lives. But what happens when we take humans out of the equation? What happens when only a few people hold the power to dictate technology? While artificial intelligence can vastly expand our access to knowledge, it can proliferate bias. While the internet allows us to connect to others, it can raise issues around privacy. While virtual reality can educate us through immersion, it can also be addictive. While advanced technology makes our lives easier, it can render humans jobless. However, if the government is at the forefront of testing these technologies and setting the standards for usage, they will help to ensure the protection of the citizens and other entities. They will also help promote positive outcomes and realize the benefits of technology. The government needs to intervene with regulations. People need to be more aware of what is happening. We need to think about what we are doing today. So, The next time there is an election and politicians come and want you to vote for them, you ask them, what is your role in the development of technology? How will you ensure its ethical application? What are your thoughts regarding the upcoming massive AI overload? Who would be accountable for the social, environmental, and human health impacts of the developing technology?
All of these are not prophecies, but possibilities.
If we make the right decisions and the right policies today,
then we can prevent this very situation from materializing.
It is the whole point of having discussions like this.
Because if you think hard about it, the future is not inevitable.
We can do something now.